Welcome to another edition of DT Live. This is a very impromptu live stream tonight. I just felt like doing something. I hadn't done a live stream in a couple of weeks. And yeah, we've already got some folks joining. Linux Programmer, hey, how's it going? So I gave you guys no heads up on this stream. I worked all day today. I came home. I realized, I haven't really made any content in about 3 days. That's kind of unusual for me to go that long without doing a little something on the channel. So rather than sitting here, I'm kind of tired and then going to the trouble of picking a real topic, a tutorial of some kind, or maybe a Linux install or something like that, spend an hour or so recording something, then spend at least an hour editing and rendering it. You know what? Why don't we just do something live tonight? I always enjoy these live streams. It's fun to interact with you guys on the YouTube chat. Plus, I never know what I'm going to talk about when I do these live streams. So, by the way, those of you that just joined, give me a yay or a nay as far as audio. So, yep. So, Sabayon doesn't get the love it deserves. That is true. And we are going to do some Sabayon. So, I have actually looked at Sabayon several times on the channel. Over the year and a half that this channel has been up and going, I've probably looked at Sabayon at least, half a dozen times. At least half a dozen times. One of my favorite Linux distributions, great Gentoo based Linux distribution. A little bit different than mainline Gentoo. They're a little different in that they use systemd, for example, a different init system, where other Gentoo based distros typically try to stick very close to mainline Gentoo. Sabayon veers away quite a bit, and I kind of like it. It's a really easy to install distro, pleasant to live in. I actually have it on one of the drives on my main machine. I haven't updated that drive in a while. Today I'm actually going to run through the install, though, in a VM, because running through an install on physical hardware would be kind of hard to capture, so I'll actually go through the install process very quickly in a VM. Yeah, Big Pod, your Manjaro server just borked. Yeah, that's what happens when you run rolling releases like Manjaro, and potentially when you run rolling releases like Sabayon. Yeah, I really felt like I needed to take a look at Sabayon. I haven't done that many distro reviews. I haven't really looked at that many distros in the last 3 or 4 months or so. I kind of slacked off. Got kind of tired of all the distro hopping and, the distro reviews. But Sabayon, I enjoy Sabayon a lot. One of my favorite distros, so I really wanted to take a look at this. Plus, I'm a supporter of Sabayon. I'm actually subscribed to their Patreon page. Love the work they do. Yeah, Chris, how you doing? Yeah, you have a build server for Arch packages and hosts a repo. And that was Big Pod. Yeah, you're looking forward to a Disco Dingo review. So am I. Love the name, Disco Dingo. That's the best name since Bionic Beaver. Yeah, Mark, hi there from down under. Glad you can make it, Mark. I don't know how long I'm going to stream tonight, so I will jump in to the Sabayon install very shortly. Yeah, you're playing with Ubuntu Budgie? Yeah, Ubuntu Budgie I should take a look at. I'll definitely take a look at all the main Ubuntu flavors when 19.04 releases, but I'll definitely take a look at Ubuntu Budgie. I'm actually a supporter of their Patreon page as well, the Ubuntu Budgie team. They do great work. Love that distro. Very clean and polished distro. Might put Ubuntu Budgie on one of my laptops. The Budgie desktop is great on a small screen, a laptop screen. Not so great on big 24-inch monitors when you have 3 of them. It's not great in a multi-monitor situation. I prefer a tiling window manager for something like my main production machine. But on the laptop, I don't mind throwing something like Budgie on it. Yep. Yeah, love the accent. Thank you, Chris. I can't wait for the next LTS. Frisky Feline. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be great. You could do a lot of really cool names with F. Just saying. But before we get demonetized by saying something we shouldn't, let's go ahead and I logged into Xmonad to do this today because for some reason I've been using Herbstluft WM for the last 2 weeks and it's been running fine. Didn't want to play well with VirtualBox earlier this evening, so you know what, Xmonad already have it set up. I know VirtualBox just works fine in Xmonad, so let me go ahead and launch VirtualBox. And I will create a new virtual machine. We'll actually start at the beginning. You guys never see me actually create these virtual machines, so I'm going to create Sabayon. I believe the version number is 19.03, and of course this will be the GNOME edition. And VirtualBox is smart enough to know that this is a Linux distribution, and it knows Sabayon is based off of Gentoo, and it's 64-bit, so nothing to play with there. How much RAM do we want to give this VM? Since it's GNOME, we better give it some RAM. You know what? 4 gigs is probably good, so 4096, 4 gigs. Create a new virtual hard disk. Yes, we need to create a hard disk, of course, since I'm going to go through the install. If I wasn't going through the install, you wouldn't need to create a virtual hard drive because you would just boot it directly off the live media. But since I want to run through the install, we have to have a virtual hard drive. And we want it dynamically allocated. Now, how much disk space do we need? I'm not sure how big Sabayon GNOME is. So just to be safe, I'm going to create a 15 gig VM. 15 gigs is usually more than enough, even for the really bloated Linux distributions. I rarely encounter a Linux distro that 15 gigs isn't enough. So now we're not done there. I need to click on this new VM I just created, go to settings. There's a few things I should do here. First of all, I have a 6-core processor. Let's give it 2 cores. Give the VM 2 cores. Display. Let's go ahead and bump that up to 128 megabytes for video memory. I'm on a triple monitor system, so I actually could make this VM, 3 monitors if I wanted to. Now, I'm only recording one of my 3 monitors, so it doesn't make sense. You guys won't see the other monitors, so I'm just gonna do 1 monitor. You do need to tick on enable 3D acceleration. If you don't do that, the VM's just not gonna run properly. I'm gonna click the audio tab here. I am going to turn off the audio driver. I'm going to choose a null audio driver rather than have pulse audio going in this VM. Why? It can cause some weird issues with my audio interface and me talking on the stream. So I'm just going to kill audio in the VM. I don't want any audio in the VM. I don't want pulse audio to launch. Nothing. So, and then I'm going to go to storage, and we need to add the ISO. So yeah, choose disk. Let's see, add, and let's see, where is my Sabayon ISO? 2.23 gigs in size. So yes, I probably did need a good, beefy sized hard drive, 15 gigs. So that really is all I needed to do. Let me go back into the settings and also turn off all the extra like menus and sys trays and stuff that sit in the VirtualBox windows because I don't need any of that. And let's see if it launches. Alright, and let's just go ahead and quickly run through the installation. I'll let that boot up for a second. Let me go back to the chat before we get way off here. Before so much chat goes by, I'm not able to catch up. Yeah, have you reviewed Pop! OS yet? I've taken a look at Pop! OS before on the channel. I haven't taken a look at it recently though. Chris says you're liking Solus more, but it seems cool. Yeah, Solus is great. Matter of fact, yeah, Solus Budgie, I ran for 3 months on one of my laptops. Ubuntu Budgie is great. If you like Budgie, either Solus or Ubuntu Budgie is great. The only problem is Solus, the repos, and obviously are not as big as the Ubuntu repos. That's just, but what can you do? Yeah, my real initials are MF. Says Gnostic. Yeah, every time you checked Ubuntu Budgie, I liked it more than I checked Solus. BigPod, yeah. I would say the Ubuntu Budgie distro, you know what, Ubuntu Budgie, though, they probably have a lot more resources behind that distro, being a main flavor of Ubuntu. That's just probably the facts with that. Plus, Solus, of course, had the main dev leave. That really threw them into major chaos. Yeah, 15 gigs is too little for Sabayon. I believe at least it was for me the last time you tried. Well, if it's too little, I'll know in just a second. Yeah, DT, you tried out SwagArch. I've taken a look at SwagArch, again, not recently. I haven't done really any like distro reviews or anything on the channel in a while, but I've taken a look at SwagArch maybe a couple of times on the channel. If you like Arch, it's Arch. If you like XFCE, it's a great XFCE. Me personally, if I wanted to run XFCE, you know who does a really nice XFCE? Manjaro. So the mainline edition of Manjaro is great. SwagArch is great too, though. Arco does a good XFCE as well. If you like Arch and XFCE, there's a lot of distros to choose. Alright, so we got the Sabayon installer up here. You know what, it does look like the guest editions are working, because it did size to the screen. Yeah, oh well. Anyway, American English. Somewhere in the central time zone here in the US. English US for the keyboard is correct. Always want to make sure and double check that. Sometimes you'll get, if you accidentally, you know, choose Dvorak or Colmac or something crazy, you're going to have a bad time. All right, erase the entire disk. Yeah, let's go ahead and just do the automatic partitioning. It's going to create, see, this is the reason why you ran out of space, BigPod. It's going to create a 8.5 gig swap. No, not in a VM. All right. So, you know what? Why is it going to create? I want to see this automatic partitioning. I guess it is going to always do twice the amount of RAM you gave it, and then whatever's left, that's all that the main partition, the extend4 partition gets. That is weird. I mean, I know that every distro has some kind of rules, you know, as far as the size of the swap. It's the same as the RAM. It's half of the RAM, twice the amount of RAM. But I've never seen one that was so... Like, you should realize that giving me an 8 gig swap, it basically makes this VM unusable. You know, because I can't install this in 6.5 gigs for that extended 4 partition. There's no way. So I either need to manually partition or make a bigger... virtual hard drive. Normally I like to do the automatic partitionings on these things so you guys get to see exactly what it creates. In this case, it would have created the 8 gig swap. So let's see, if I go to new partition table, we'll do master boot record. That'll be fine. Free space, 15 gigs. Let's see, it's been a while since I've used this tool here in Calamares. Let's see, new volume group. What am I doing here? Probably should have just opened gparted. New partition table. No, we've already done that. Create. Oh, there we go. All right. So the mount point obviously needs to be root. And I probably won't bother with a swap. If I was going to create a swap in this VM, maybe a gig. There's no point in doing more than that in a VM. All right. Flags. We obviously need the boot flag. We don't have the boot flag turned on. Obviously, it's not going to be bootable. Let's see if that gets us to where we need to be. Let's see what happens here. Obviously, I need to create a username and a password. Let's give it my super secure password. Log in automatically without asking for the password. Nah, I like to be asked for the password. Alright, so now we've got the 15 gig extend4 partition. No swap. If I was doing this on a real machine, like my physical machine, I might create a swap. Actually, on my desktop, maybe not. On the laptop, it's pretty important to have a swap. Even with making just the one partition, the big 15 gig partition, that 2.2 gig ISO, I don't know what that's going to end up once everything is unsquashed. I might still have needed a bigger virtual hard drive. We'll just have to see. I did notice, though, that the Calamares installer kind of just wigged out here. The installer is probably running, but yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it go for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes is plenty of time for this thing to install. If I don't ever see, hey, the installation finished screen, in about 10 minutes it should finish, so I'll go back to the chat. That's unfortunate that I don't get any kind of slideshow to watch. I mean, I'm sure there's a slideshow, it's just not working in this VM. Let's see. Yeah, so Big Pod. Now they are using a better installer. Who's using a better installer? It said no more stupid Anaconda. Are you talking about Sabayon? I know Sabayon had used Anaconda in the past. Actually, they used Calamares, then they used Anaconda. Now they're back on Calamares. Probably what you're talking about is Sabayon. I do agree. Calamares is a much better installer than the Anaconda installer. I don't like that installer. I don't like the Anaconda installer with the Fedora that uses it. And SUSE still using it. It's not the most user-friendly. Calamares is great. The Ubiquity installer that Ubuntu and all of its flavors and derivatives and everything use is pretty good too. Although I don't think Canonical is really working on Ubiquity much anymore. Very soon you might actually see all the main Ubuntu flavors move to Calamares. And then, of course, the hundreds of distros based on Ubuntu will all probably move to Calamares. Yeah, MM40, you don't need a swap. No, definitely not. I mean, I don't really need a swap even on like my desktop tower here. It's not necessary. I have 16 gigs of RAM anyway. Swap is definitely not necessary in a VM. Yeah, weird. Half the drive, more than half the drive. Yeah, that's 8.5 gigs versus 6.5 gigs. The swap was 8.5 gigs, so. And that's just wasted space. I probably will never even use the swap. The swap will never be active in that VM. Certainly I won't need 8.5 gigs of swap. So, you're not a big fan of their logo, says Chris. Or the Sabayon logo? You don't like the little penguin footprint? Let me see. Do I have the Sabayon website handy somewhere? Let's see. Yeah, I kind of like the little penguin footprint, and all the wallpapers and everything. It's kind of cool. Of course, their main website, sabayon.org. By the way, if I go to the download page, it says I'm unable to connect. Okay, there we go. I go, of course, to go get the desktop images. I didn't mention this. I'm doing GNOME today, but they do have a KDE edition, XFCE edition, a Mate edition. So there's 4 main flavors. They also have a Fluxbox edition. Now that Fluxbox edition really is a minimal edition. It's not necessarily like Fluxbox and it's configured and you got a lot of apps. It's mainly it's Sabayon's minimal ISO. You get Xorg and you get Fluxbox, but there's really nothing else on it. And typically, if I was going to use Sabayon on one of my machines, I would actually choose the Fluxbox minimal edition. I wouldn't, I don't use any of these big desktop environments. But for purposes of this video, wouldn't be very interesting for me to take a look at that minimal ISO. Because after the install, we'd be done. There's nothing left to take a look at. Fluxbox and nothing installed. So, let me get back to the chat here. Yeah, I heard Ubuntu was going Calamares. Yep, they probably will eventually. Some of the flavors are actually talking about going to it like now, like the next version that comes out, 19.10 maybe. Lubuntu in particular probably will switch very soon. Kenny B. Howdy, Derek. Been a while. Good to see you. Thanks, Kenny. Yeah, Benjamin, I got 32 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of swap. Never have I seen my machine use the swap. Yeah, you're never going to see. With 32 gigs of RAM, yeah, the swap is not needed. Yeah, MM14. It's a chicken's foot, is it? Why would you have a chicken's foot as a logo? I hope that's a penguin's foot. But you're right. Maybe it's not a... Maybe it's a velociraptor? I don't know. Let's see. And we got Peter in the chat. Benjamin. Is Sabayon themed? Yes, it will not be like vanilla GNOME. It'll be... Yeah. At least I'm assuming. It's been a while since I've taken a look at their GNOME edition. Their KDE edition. If you like a good KDE Plasma desktop, Sabayon does a good one. I think I've taken a look at the Mate version as well. It was pretty good. Now, Sabayon, if you're thinking about trying Sabayon, of course, you can always check it out in a VM like I'm doing, or you can check it out on live media, put it on a USB stick, for example. For those of you that maybe want to put it on your main machine and try to live in it, I would caution you. Would you be comfortable living in things like Arch-based distros, things like Manjaro and Antergos, Mainline Arch, Arco Linux, those kinds of distros? You'd be comfortable with that? Maybe. If you're not comfortable running some of those distros, Sabayon is probably not for you. It's Gentoo based. It's not really, in my opinion, it's probably not going to be as stable of an experience as something like Manjaro, for example. So if you've installed, some of those Arch-based distros and found them to be, unstable and breaking all the time on you, and it was just a headache and you hated it, Sabayon might not be where you want to end up on. If you're okay with that, though, Sabayon is a great way to get into Gentoo. It's basically Gentoo with a dead easy installer, that Calamares installer, 10 minutes, you're done. Gentoo with systemd. Gentoo typically does not come with systemd. You can install Gentoo and use systemd, but most people that use Gentoo end up installing OpenRC for the init system. I will tell you one other way that Sabayon differs from mainline Gentoo, and it actually prevents me from running Sabayon on my main production machine. I have it on one of my drives, but I don't make videos in Sabayon because Sabayon, I don't believe, installs FFmpeg. They install some alternative to FFmpeg. I think, is it libav? I'm sure one of you guys in the chat will probably know. But anyway, there's no FFmpeg. There's no NVENC, of course. Now, I could go out and get FFmpeg. I could probably compile FFmpeg myself with NVENC support and OBS with NVENC support, but that's kind of a hassle. These days, I don't like doing that stuff. It's really one of the reasons I haven't run one of the recent Ubuntu versions. I was using Ubuntu 16.04 when I started my YouTube channel a year and a half ago, and it was great. But some of the recent versions of Ubuntu, 18.04 and 18.10 especially, they don't have NVENC. They're not building FFmpeg with NVENC support. I don't know why, but I can't use your distro. I mean, I can, again, compile FFmpeg myself with NVENC support, but I'm not going to do that when there's Arch and all the Arch-based distros ready to go, out of the box, NVENC, it's in the repos. Same thing with Fedora. Fedora is great. Now, you do have to enable a non-free repo with Fedora, but you do RPM Fusion, you got FFmpeg and NVENC and... Yeah, Adam, install Gentoo. I don't want to be doing a live stream that long this evening, Adam. Wouldn't be a bad idea one day if I had like all day. I mean, we could do a live Gentoo install. It actually wouldn't take that long. I mean, it would take, I don't know, I'd probably need a block of about 3 hours to do it in a VM on this machine. So not a terribly long, it wouldn't be like some kind of marathon live stream, I could do it pretty quickly. Just to get through the install to the point where we get, to the point where we reboot, have grub, and can log in. We're not going to put Xorg on it, and we're not going to install desktop environments or anything like that. But just running through the install, yeah, we could be done with that. Probably 2.5, 3 hours in a VM on my production machine here, my current machine. It's not a very beefy machine. If I had a better machine, we could get that install time down much quicker. Yeah, Sabayon is the most stable Gentoo-based distribution that I have tried. You might be right on that. The other Gentoo-based distros I've tried, I actually have tried Calculate and Redcore. All three of those, Sabayon, Calculate, and Redcore. Fantastic Gentoo-based distros. Calculate I've had the most trouble with as far as stability. I actually put it on my main production machine and lived in it for about a week at one point. I don't know, about this time last year, back in 2018. And I was only on it for a week because it broke on me. Xorg broke in a big way. And I didn't plan on staying on Calculate that long anyway, and I had something else I wanted to move to, another distro I wanted to try, so it wasn't that big of a deal when it broke. I had backups anyway, so I just went ahead and hopped to the next distro I was planning on moving to at the time anyway. But the fact that Xorg broke on you, yeah. I've never had Xorg break on me in Sabayon at least, so. Yeah, and client says, yeah, Sabayon uses libav instead of ffmpeg. That's what I was thinking. It's a strange decision. And I don't mind these distros doing their own thing. So that's two major ways Sabayon differs from mainline Gentoo. Systemd, I don't mind Systemd being on the system. I actually quite like Systemd, so I'm fine with that. Not having ffmpeg, for somebody that does, video content creation or audio content creation for that matter, even if I was just doing just audio, I would want ffmpeg installed. But especially for video, I need the proprietary NVIDIA encoders, the NVENC hardware encoder. So, by the way, I haven't been timing this VM install. I have no idea if it's finished or not because, again, the Calamaris installer, as soon as I hit install, instead of getting a slideshow like you should, the screen just went to a solid color. I think the installer was running. Sometimes these installers do kind of freak out like that. And you just leave them alone here in VirtualBox. They will eventually complete the installation. When I reboot, it'll be fine. Typically, the install only takes about 10 minutes, so I think it's been about 10 minutes. I'll give it about 2 more minutes just to be on the safe side, but it shouldn't take really longer than about 10 minutes. Yeah, is Wayland the successor of X, or is there something else on the horizon? Well, I mean, X11, Wayland, I guess, will be the successor. There is some kind of X12 planned, or was at one point, but I think nobody's really working on, like a new and improved version of X11. I think it's all Wayland now. It's where we're wanting to go. It's just not ready though, Wayland. And it's been 10 years. 10 years of development, and Wayland's still not usable. And every time I say that, there are people, well, I'm using Wayland. Well, what are you doing on your machine? Right? Are you recording videos and editing video? And, you're probably not doing any of the stuff I do. So if all you do is open a web browser and go to Facebook every day, yeah, Wayland is probably just fine. It's perfect. But for a lot of real work that people do on their computers, Wayland is just not there. It's not even close to being there. Let's see. He is an OpenBox fan as far as I remember. Yeah. Big Pod, you're an OpenBox fan as far as I remember. You still on OpenBox, Big Pod? Let's see, where did you get that desktop background which you install Sabayon on? The desktop background, let's see. You talking about the wallpaper? This wallpaper here? Not sure where I got it, to be honest. I don't really like write down where I find wallpapers on the internet. I just find on I throw them in a directory on my machine. I should upload them all to the internet somewhere for those of you interested in some of these wallpapers. I need to do that sometime soon, actually. I do get asked about some of the wallpapers occasionally. Yeah, Paul says, Wayland gave me issues in Fedora. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to assume this VM has probably completed. So what I'm going to do is, I guess, dmenu. I'm going to run xkill and just kill this VM. And let's just restart it and see. Well, restarting it, but I haven't detached the ISO, so that's my fault there. Got kind of in a hurry here. So let me. So we need to detach the ISO. So I need to go back into the settings for this VM, and under storage where we added that ISO, we need to remove it. That's the same as just unplugging the USB stick upon reboot when you install on physical media. And if everything works, no bootable, yeah, so the install did not complete. That is fine though. You guys saw how the install works. Mainly, I just wanted to go through the install process. So I guess I did not wait long enough for the install to complete. That is unfortunate. But we are not done here. We can still take a look at Sabayon. I went through the install process for those that haven't seen it before. Now let's take a look at just the live image here. So if I go and just add the ISO, and this time I'll just boot into the live environment. Yeah, Windows Enthusiast. Love the name. Using Wayland in OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. You should try it, and I am happy. KDE works just okay. I have tried Wayland. You're assuming I haven't tried it. Yes. Yeah, I bet it does work just running KDE in OpenSUSE, but there's other things that I need to do. Like have my proprietary NVIDIA graphics drivers. I can't have them in Wayland. If I can't have the drivers for my graphics card, I can't use your display server. So. Let's see. Is he still using Manjaro? I am on Manjaro right now. I may not be on Manjaro much longer, though. I've been thinking about hopping. Don't know what to. Been getting the itch to... I haven't distro hopped in so long as far as on my physical machine. I've been doing a lot of window manager hopping. I window manager hop like crazy. But I've been on Manjaro for a while. Love Manjaro. I'm gonna miss Manjaro, but I might hop to something else. Alright. So this is Sabayon, the live environment here. So we have a welcome little greeter here. Let's get rid of that. Wonder what brings up a terminal. Any chance Control-Alt-T brings up a terminal? Probably not. How about just typing the word terminal? Wow, those gigantic icons and such a small screen resolution. This would be a real pain if I had to stick with this small screen resolution. But let's XR and R and see what's available for us. So XR and R space -S. And then what resolution would I like? I would like 1920 by 1080, but it's not going to be available. I'll pick something reasonable though. How about 1680 by 1050? Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, that's not a bad screen resolution there. I think we could I think we could live with that. And let's close that out. So this is Sabayon GNOME. Let's see. Move my head here. The animations actually are pretty smooth. It looks like there's a little glitch here, but they're really smooth in this VM with 2 cores of my 6-core CPU, 4 gigs of RAM. It's actually a pretty smooth animation. It probably would be great on physical hardware. Of course, we have our calculator, desktop search files, the Nautilus file manager here. And wow, very orange icon set. That's almost like the Ubuntu Humanity icon set, which I like that icon set. It's just orange, and the same thing with this particular icon set. I'm not sure what they're using here, but it's very orange. Let's see. Yeah, I tried Sabayon, good distro, but I had problems with KDE. My password didn't work to unlock. I had to go to a TTY to do so. Well, I mean, if that's a minor problem. It's a problem. I mean, if you set a password in the installer and reboot and the password doesn't work, are you sure you didn't just fat finger the password and type the wrong password? Or maybe you had the caps lock key on or something like that. It may not have been a distro problem. Just throwing it out there. Joel, I've been on Manjaro XFCE for over a year, and I can't justify hopping distros. That's why I stick to Manjaro. I've hopped off of it a couple of different times in the last year and a half, and I keep coming back to it. It's because I hopped to something else, and it just doesn't work quite as right, and then I hop back. I keep coming back to it because it just works. I've never had any problems with Manjaro. No major problems. Nothing that, caused me any real loss of time trying to fix something. Minor problems, things that might take me a couple of minutes to fix, but nothing major. Yeah, Total OS today. This icon set looks horrible. Thank you, Toss. What's your personal favorite window manager? My personal favorite window manager is whatever window manager I happen to be using at that time. I don't know. Really love OpenBox. Really love Qtile. I really love Xmonad. I would say between one of those three, give me any of them. But even the ones I didn't mention, I mean, DWM. DWM was fantastic. Those 3-4 weeks I lived in DWM, I really liked DWM. I didn't like some of the suckless philosophy with DWM, but as far as how the window manager operated, I really liked it. Still have it installed. I log into DWM every now and then. Let's see. Derek, did you ever go to Arch from Manjaro? I went to Arch on my main production machine at least once, maybe twice in the last year. I was having a problem with a graphics card in this machine at one point. I had a graphics card. I wasn't sure if the graphics card was failing or what was going on, but I was having real problems in Manjaro streaming and just making videos even. Wouldn't make videos in 1080p anymore, and previously it worked fine making videos in 1080p and streaming in 1080p. All of a sudden things started going really crazy. So I wasn't sure if it was just something broken on Manjaro or what, so I installed Arch. And lived in Arch for about a week. Same issues. Didn't fix anything. And then I hopped to something else. And I ended up buying a new graphics card. Though once I hopped to a couple of different distros, I knew the graphics card was the problem. Anyway, back to Sabayon here. I'm just going to take a quick look around. I'm not going to really dive deep into this. Of course, Shotwell is here. Rhythmbox. There's no music, obviously, on this VM. Even if there was, you guys remember I turned off Pulse Audio in this VM. So I set the audio driver for this VM to be the null audio driver rather than Pulse Audio being the audio driver. And I do that is because having Pulse Audio running in this VM for some reason would conflict with my USB interface and this microphone. It just does. I don't know why. So it's just become a habit now. Every time I create a VM, I just turn off the audio. So let's see. Also under accessories, we had GNote. I'm assuming that's, of course, our note taking app. I don't know why you need something like GNote or, any of those note-taking apps. You just Vim, right? Just type something in Vim, be done with it. LibreOffice Math is here under Education. The GIMP is here. Let's see what the latest version of the GIMP is. Of course, being a rolling release distro, being based on Gentoo, which is quite rolling release, as in it should really have the latest packages. I don't know. I don't think Sabayon really curates things that much. I don't think they hold packages back. Certainly not like a Manjaro holds things back for a couple of weeks from mainline Arch. So this looks like the GIMP that I've been using here on Manjaro. Yeah, 2.10.8. Yeah, GIMP's fantastic. I use it to do some basic artwork and stuff here on the channel. I'm not much of an artist, but I can do a little something. Under Internet, Firefox, of course, is the browser. Transmission is the BitTorrent client, and of course HexChat. HexChat is our IRC client. Let's see. We're connecting to the freenode network. That's nice. You know what? Let's join. Oh, I guess I tried to type all that too quick. Join DistroTube. Let's see if this works. May not have worked. Let's try that again. Let's add that hashtag in front of it. There we go. Any of you guys want to chat in the DistroTube channel over on freenode? There I am. All right. I wonder if I can't minimize this window, unfortunately. This is one of the things with GNOME. There's no minimize button. No more minimizing windows and unminimizing windows. Now, if I quit it, does it go to the sys tray? If I go to Settings, Preferences, let's see, General, Quit. I thought there was an option to get this to go sit in the sys tray rather than just quitting it. I'm not sure. Let's see, Ansem just joined. Big Pod, you're sitting in there as well. All right. Under Office, we have our contacts, dictionary. Of course, Evolution is the email client here in the GNOME desktop environment. I believe Evolution is so tied up into GNOME, I don't even think you can get rid of the Evolution email client. It's one of the unfortunate things about GNOME is there's some things you just can't get rid of. I don't think you can uninstall the file manager either, but that's not a big deal. And of course, GNOME has a hard dependency with systemd, but Sabayon uses systemd. So that's one of the benefits of Sabayon if you're a GNOME user, is when the latest versions of GNOME come out, you're good to go. On Gentoo, they have to majorly hack GNOME to be usable with OpenRC over on Gentoo. So, of course, the entire LibreOffice suite is here. And we have a programming category, some Python stuff, Sabayon category with our Gentoo documentation, the Sabayon repos, Sabayon help forum, Sabayon packages. What I would really like to check out is their graphical package manager. We'll get to that in just a second. Sound and video. Brasero is GNOME's disk burning utility. Pretty nice disk burner. Most of you guys probably don't even own optical drives anymore. You probably don't even have CDs or DVDs lying around. I still occasionally use CDs and DVDs. I have a CD changer in my car. And Brasero, it's not bad. If it's already installed on the system, I would use Brasero. If I don't have a disk burner already installed on my system. Typically what I install is K3B. K3B is KDE's disk burner. It's fantastic. Cheese is here for webcam, MPV for media player, Pativi, that is GNOME's video editor. Now, Pativi is an interesting little program. I have actually edited some of my videos before in Pativi, especially when I first started my channel. You know, I was trying different video editors, and I don't do much editing. I don't do really complicated stuff usually. I'm not doing fancy effects and transitions and everything. And for basic stuff, Pativi is not bad. Really doesn't look that much different than Kdenlive. Really doesn't operate that much different than Kdenlive as far as some of the basic stuff. Obviously, we don't have any video clips for me to show you how to put something together in Pativi. But Pativi's not bad. Not especially powerful, though. Doesn't have anywhere near the features of Kdenlive. I mean, I'm not comparing Pativi to Kdenlive, but Pativi is usable for just like basic stuff. All right, back to the YouTube chat. You know what? Before we get to the YouTube chat, yeah, let's get to the IRC chat. Let me get to the preferences here. As for those of you watching here, let's see if we can make the text bigger. Sabayon user. Hey, DT, I am famous. I am on YouTube. Yes. Keep it clean and family friendly. Let's see. I missed some of the chat. Sorry, guys. Manjaro OpenBox is not running on my laptop. And it's lagging. It's now running on your laptop is probably what you meant. And it's lagging. OpenBox is lagging. It's not going to be a problem with OpenBox. It'll be a problem with something else, unfortunately. OpenBox is very small window manager. No dependencies, really. So I doubt it's OpenBox causing the problem. One way to test that is install a different window manager and see if it's still lagging. If it's still lagging, then that's something, you know, part of the base system with Manjaro that's probably causing you some problems. If you want another window manager to try that doesn't have any dependencies like OpenBox, maybe install Fluxbox. Log into Fluxbox and see if you have the same lagging issues. Yeah, King Zero, proprietary blobs. Proprietary blobs running on your machine that you have no ability to remove are terrible. I would agree with that. You should be able to remove every piece of software on your machine. Yeah. Every library, every module. Let's see, how about a jumper on the motherboard? Who needs a jumper on the motherboard? You guys are getting into some projects here in the YouTube chat. Pativi's been on version 0.99 since forever, though. So, yeah, it's not really seeing any development. I will say that the little bit I've used it, and I've used it a little bit, more than a few times. You know, I really didn't have like major crashes in Pativi all the time. I mean, it's not a complete crash fest that OpenShot has always been for me. Some of the earlier versions of Kdenlive, nothing recently, but in the past, you know, a few years ago, Kdenlive used to crash all the time as well. Kdenlive has gotten much better. Yeah, DT, you know something like i3 window manager mode binding in Xmonad. i3 window manager mode binding. Is that the ones where yeah, you switch modes and you have a different set of key bindings? I don't know of any other window manager that exists in other than i3, unfortunately. Really cool feature. Now, that being said, I'm not sure if you really need that feature. I mean, typically when you use that key binding mode, you know, in something like i3, it would be like to have a different menu with key bindings for like your session, log out and shut down and reboot, you know, just as an example. And instead of, doing all that with your new key binding modes or whatever in your window manager, I mean, you could write a simple bash script to handle something like that. Maybe run it in something like dmenu or Rofi. So there are alternatives to just using the key binding mode in i3. But it is a great feature. I really like that feature in i3. And I don't know of any other window manager that has anything like that. That's the one feature in i3 that I thought, that's really cool. Nothing else in i3 really struck me as being that innovative. I mean, all tiling window managers are basically the same at the end of the day. I missed some of the chat. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I agree. You should be able to remove the blobs, the kernel, such stuff. So huge. I'm not using it. The kernel is so huge. Well, I mean, you can always compile your own kernel. You don't have to install the big kernel. Well, if you're installing something like Gentoo, you don't have to install the big kernel. Now, if you're taking a distro as is, like we're installing Sabayon today, or you guys that are going to check out Ubuntu 19.04, in a couple weeks, Manjaro installs the big kernel. Yeah, then you need to go compile your own kernel at some point. If that matters to you. It doesn't matter to me. I just installed the big kernel on anyway, so. Hey, DT, what are your thoughts on Runit? Have you tried it? I have tried it a little bit. I tried Runit on Void, and I liked Void. Put Void on one of my extra drives a while back. That was when I kind of thought Void was an interesting project, though. That was like late 2017, early 2018, and then their main dev disappeared, and for a while I assumed Void Linux was just going to die. It hasn't, though. They actually saw some recent releases, so good for them, but there for a few months it looked bad with Void. Artix Linux, it's an Arch-based Linux distro called Artix. They use Runit. Well, they have two versions, one using Runit, one using OpenRC. And I've tried the one with Runit. It works great. Yeah, Silent Robot, OpenShot, Kdenlive, TV, all crash fest. Yeah, I definitely, OpenShot especially, it's not stable enough to use. Kdenlive, I've had good experiences with the recent versions of Kdenlive. I'm not sure I've had Kdenlive crash on me in a few months. Now, again, I don't do a lot of really crazy stuff. I'm not dealing with, hundreds of different clips and splicing things and adding a bunch of effects. And when you get all of that stuff going in Kdenlive, that tends to be when it's going to crash on you. Olive, on the other hand, has been very stable so far, says Silent Robot. Olive, I haven't checked out Olive. It's a new free and open source video editor that a lot of people tell me is worth looking at. Seems to be a good project. It's still, not going to be as mature as something like Kdenlive. But that's fine. If it's stable and is usable, I'd use it. I'd definitely support their work. Because we need better video editors than what we've got anyway on Linux. As far as free and open source video editors, I don't want to use proprietary stuff. I don't really want to use DaVinci Resolve, and I don't really want to use Lightworks. And neither one of them are really free and open source software, so. I would love if we had a free and open source solution that was as powerful as those proprietary solutions. It's one of the problems, one of the complaints everybody has about GIMP and Inkscape is they're not Photoshop. They're not Illustrator, and they're not, oh, well, okay. They're pretty good, though. They're pretty close. But with video editors, we really don't have anything close to, the big proprietary video editors, the professional video editors. And we're light years away from DaVinci and Lightworks. And DaVinci on Linux, even if I wanted to do DaVinci Resolve on Linux, can be a tricky experience. Doesn't DaVinci Resolve, for one thing, graphics card wise, I'm an NVIDIA user, but I think DaVinci Resolve only works with NVIDIA on Linux right now. You guys correct me if I might have it backwards. Maybe it's only AMD, but I think it's only NVIDIA. Officially, DaVinci Resolve is only supposed to be run on CentOS or Red Hat. That's the only two Linux distributions they specifically support. So, although you can install it on any distro. So yes, it is NVIDIA that it does work. AMD graphics don't work on DaVinci. So yeah. And for many of us, I mean, many of us would use AMD cards if we're running Linux because of the open source drivers are really good with AMD. But then again, it probably wouldn't matter for somebody wanting to use DaVinci Resolve because you're not using an open source video editor at that point. Yeah, Blender can be used as a video editor. Yes, it can. But that's not really what Blender was designed for. But yes, you can use it to edit video. Yeah, neither is Zoom. Yeah, so I don't understand the mentality. Yeah, Zoom is not free and open source. But the difference is with Zoom is there are free and open source alternatives out there. Let's see. Nothing that a simple alias could not fix. Alias, Photoshop, GIMP. It's going to be a little more involved than that. You have the option to not use proprietary video editing software. A professional video editor doesn't exist. Yeah. Inkscape is on point. GIMP needs some work, especially in the non-destructive editing side of things. Yeah, that's really all GIMP is missing. Other than that, GIMP's pretty fantastic. Inkscape, the same. Blender. Somebody mentioned Blender. Blender's great too. We have some really good free and open source multimedia applications. You know what? Even video editing, Kdenlive is not bad. Audio editing, Audacity's fantastic. Audacity's great. Let's see. Yeah, I missed some of the chat. Sorry, guys. Yeah, Blender is awesome, but it is not a video editor. Yeah, that's not really what it was designed for. You can use it as a video editor, though. People do. I'm sorry. Look at all this IRC chat. What are you guys up to here? Yeah, I love running it on Artix. IRC, first social media. A lot of you guys are in the DistroTube channels. Let's see, what distro are you using? And then somebody answered Xubuntu. Yeah, Xubuntu is always recommended. Now, what I wanted to do before we get way off topic here, I wanted to check out, because if you guys want to run Sabayon, I mean, obviously, you know what the GNOME desktop looks like. Most of you. You know all the applications that we've already discussed. I mean, let's check out HTOP, though, while I've got it here. And this is with HexChat running. But that is not bad. 728 megs of the 4 gigs of RAM I gave this VM. That's with HexChat running. That is actually pretty good for GNOME. Many times, on a cold boot, I have GNOME pushing a gig in some of these VMs. That's not bad with an application running. So, I mean, the GNOME devs have been saying they have been working on improving performance. They might be onto something there. Now, utilities, what I really... Ooh. And, of course, turn a VM. I used the scroll wheel on the mouse just a second ago, and that is what caused that. Let me get rid of that, and I'll try it again in just a second. Present Arms is in the house. How you doing, Present Arms? It's been a while, Present. Hope you've been doing well. You moved. Yeah, you been around, though? Okay. Yeah, good to see you. I was thinking about you the other day. I was like, I wonder what Alistair is up to. Present Arms on Linux. Better internet. Yeah. You moved to the Isle of Wight. White? Olive. Okay. Saint Raphael. Hey, DT. Hey, Saint. Alright, let's see if I can get the menu to not go crazy on me. So I was looking at utilities here. And, oh yeah. Something going on with the graphics here. Now, this wasn't an issue in any of the other menus we tried earlier. But you know what? I didn't have HexChat up and running. So I'm actually going to try something. You guys that are in the IRC, sorry, I might come back to it, but let's quit it for a second. No, that didn't fix anything. That menu system was just fine earlier. There was nothing wrong with that menu system. Anyway, if I type software, will I get any kind of software center? No. I believe Equo is the command line package manager and Rigo is the GUI package manager. And we do have Rigo here. Wow, I don't know why. This VM was running just fine. You know what? I have an idea what caused the problem though. While I was chatting with you guys a minute ago, the screensaver or the screen lock did enable, and then when I came back to it, that might have caused the problem. Because I was talking to you guys for a few minutes in the chat, and I guess we were gone long enough that the screen did lock. Anyway, this is Rigo. Rigo is the GUI package manager. I personally don't use graphical package managers, so this is not something I would use. I don't know anything about it. Every time I've ever installed Sabayon, I've just always done everything at the command line with Equo, their command line package manager. But let's see what is available for us. So even if I installed the GNOME desktop environment, you guys know I edit video in Kdenlive, so it's Kdenlive here. Nothing found. There is no way Kdenlive is not in the repos. So I'm assuming we need to sync the repos. So update repositories, yes. And that was one of the reasons why I did a search for a program that I know is in the repos, is because if it doesn't find it, yes, it's obvious. We need to sync the repos. So let that run for a minute. Then we'll check out Rigo. Yeah, that's a VBox and GNOME issue. Best way to fix it is to disable the 3D graphics. I don't know. It was working fine earlier. Just wish I knew what caused it. It might have been the screen lock. Let's see if it's working for me now. No, still the same. I mean, I could reboot the VM. It would just take 30 seconds to kill the VM and restart it again. It'd probably work just fine. I just wish I knew what caused it. That way I could avoid whatever caused the glitch. The way the repos are syncing. And by the way, because I'm syncing the repos, and it's pulling stuff down from the internet, of course, the stream may buffer. I should have warned you guys about that. I normally don't like installing packages from the internet or updating the repos or anything like that on these streams for fear of buffering. Alright. Yeah, the last time I tried Sabayon, it was based on Gentoo. Yeah, Sabayon is based on Gentoo. It still is. Unless they moved, and they didn't tell me. Yeah, I moved literally 3 doors away from where I was. Oh, well. Only doing my ISOs. Yeah, of course, Alistair, Present Arms, does a great version of PC Linux OS with the Trinity desktop environment. As I see it, the advantage of free and open source software is that many people work on it and add to it, where the development of proprietary software is done by only a relatively small team. But FOSS takes a lot of time. Yep. Proprietary software can be made fast with a lot of money. Yeah. Of course, I mean, it depends. Opinions vary on this matter. Obviously, a hardliner like Richard Stallman, you know, he doesn't care whether the proprietary software is 10 times faster than the free and open source software and has 10 times as many features or any of that. He doesn't care if there is no free and open source application available for that task at hand. He will not use proprietary software just based on principle, ideology. For him, it's more about the ideology than being pragmatic or, actually having usable software. But that's the extreme of one end of the spectrum. Of course, the other end of the spectrum is people don't care about free and open source software at all. They just want something that works. They see the people that are out there promoting free and open source software as a strange bunch, that all we want is, to run stuff for free is because we're broke, we have no money. They make fun of us. They call us freetards. I've seen some of those Windows users that make fun of us Linux freetards. I don't like it. Alright, so it looks like the repos have updated. Yeah, the repositories updated successfully. Okay, thanks. There are 10 updates. What do you want to do? I'm going to ignore them for now. There are 4 notices from the repositories. Yeah, let me see. So, Sabayon Weekly. Okay, so it's just some information about the repositories. Support Sabayon on Patreon. Yeah, any of you guys. If you run Sabayon, yeah, you should definitely donate to them. Subscribe to their Patreon. I think they also take donations over at their homepage, sabayon.org. Alright, so let's close that. And go back to the home menu here. And now, let's see. If I do a search for Kdenlive. Kdenlive 18.12.3, of course, is in the repos, of course it's going to be, now that we have the repos updated. So anything else? I mean, I would have to, of course, install OBS. Is OBS available here? OBS Studio, maybe? OBS Studio 23.0.1 is available. What else did I mention I would need? Audacity. Audacity's here. GIMP, we already know GIMP is here because it's installed. So all the tools I need, of course, FFmpeg. FFmpeg is in the repos, virtual package for FFmpeg executable implementation. Some FFmpeg stuff. 3.4.5. Okay, there we go. I don't know if it's built with NVENC support or not. I would still end up having to compile FFmpeg myself, depending on exactly how this thing is built. So, by the way, Gentoo, of course, is a source-based Linux distribution. You build everything from source. Everything's compiled and built from source on your system. Sabayon is a binary distribution. These are actually in Sabayon's repos, prepackaged binaries, so much quicker to install. But the downside of that is, what flags did they build these things with? Who knows, right? So, well, let's see. More info. Use flags. Ah, very cool. So we can actually see. Do I see NVENC anywhere in here for the use flags? I don't see it. So I'm assuming they probably didn't build it with NVENC support. Now it's telling me, do I want to reinstall? So maybe FFmpeg isn't actually installed on the system. Now that is interesting. Let me open the terminal again then. And can I maximize that? Let's do a where is FFmpeg? And yeah, FFmpeg is the binary is already on the system, so it's already installed. User bin FFmpeg. Okay, solves that problem. How about a uname space -r? Let's get the kernel we're on, 4.20.0. So they're still on 4.20 rather than 5.0. There were 10 updates available, though, in the graphical package manager. The kernel might be one of them. I didn't check. I could actually check with the command line package manager, equo. Let me see if I can zoom in, though. Zoom in. So, to update the system with equo, you would sudo equo update to update the repositories. We already did that, so I don't need to do this. And then you would sudo equo upgrade. Similar to how you sudo apt update and then sudo apt upgrade in Ubuntu or Debian or Mint or the millions of other Debian-based distros. So it's calculating the system updates here in equo, the command line package manager. All right, and let's see what is going to be installed. X11 drivers. Well, it's all X11 drivers. There's a new Firefox version. Yeah, so no kernel. So still on 4.20. So 5.0, I guess, isn't ready just yet. I'm not going to bother taking this update here, because, of course, it's going to download stuff from the internet and cause the stream to start buffering. All right. Yeah, present arms. I should have NVENC installed. You have it installed on your My PC Linux OS distro? Let's see. Most distros that I try, though, Arch, all the Arch-based distros are good because, you know, when they build FFmpeg, they build it with everything. Kind of like Arch, the kernel, you know, it's the big kernel. They just put everything in the kernel. Arch is great like that. As part of their keep it simple, stupid philosophy is just throw everything in that thing. So a lot of people think Arch is a minimal Linux distro. It's not really that minimal. It's minimal in that when you install it, you know, you choose the packages that go on your system, but all those pre-built binaries are built with pretty much all the flags and all the modules and everything. So yeah, what did you use for the modeling software? Just to try out modeling software. Not sure who you were asking that to. C. Bro, what is your audio setup? Sounds like paradise. Actually, I'm using Pulse Audio. I don't use Jack. I have played with Jack. Jack works just fine. But these days, I just stick with Pulse Audio just because it kind of works. For the most part. Every now and then, it gives me some issues. Other than that, I have a USB audio interface, a Scarlett 2i2. Very common audio interface. I want to say it costs you around $100, that particular audio interface. The microphone is kind of expensive. This is a blue baby bottle. The blue baby bottle SL, I believe, is the microphone. It's an XLR mic. And I paid, I want to say, about $400 for it. Somewhere around there. That's pretty much it. Other than that, I've got a few filters that I run in OBS to clean up the audio a little bit. I don't do that much with the audio, though. Certainly not on these live streams. If I pre-recorded a video and I wanted to clean up the audio a little bit, run it through a few more filters, I could play around with it in Audacity. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with what I get just recording in OBS with the few filters that I've got enabled in OBS. It's not pro-level audio by any means, but it's not bad. And I could probably play with the OBS settings a little more to tweak it just a hair more. One of the problems with this particular mic, though, is if I turn the gain up too much, it's so sensitive, it picks up everything. Everything that goes on in this house, everything that goes on the street in front of the house, planes going by. I'm a couple of miles away from a railroad track. It's one of the challenges, you know, not being in a proper studio that's kind of soundproofed. Is, you know, some of these mics are just so sensitive. You really have to kind of play with the settings, the gain on the interface and the settings and OBS and everything to get the perfect mix to where, you know, people can actually hear you, but they're not hearing everything else. Yeah, present arms. 5.0.5 is in the repos. Whose repos is that? What? Let's see. How is i3 going for you, Yu-Gi-Oh Master? Yeah, is Yu-Gi-Oh in the chat? Yeah, he is. How you doing, Ricky? Hey man, long time no see. After living in OpenBox for 4 months, I window manager hopped to the i3 window manager. Yeah, OpenBox and i3 are nothing alike. Both fine window managers. I wish you would have talked to me before you went to i3 though, Yu-Gi-Oh! I could have pointed you to probably a better tiling window manager experience for a first tiling window manager. Awesome window manager. Just saying. If you're not that invested in i3 just yet, might want to install Awesome and take a look. Speaking of which, I haven't actually done anything with the Awesome window manager on the channel, and I should do that at some point. Yeah, DT, if you want, you can put some noise canceling foam on the walls. Yeah. Those foam panels and all, I mean, they don't really cancel out much noise coming from outside of the room though. They help with reverb and echo, you know, keep some of that stuff down inside the room you're in. For example, if I was in a room without any carpet, then yeah, you need to have, you know, the foam panels or some curtains or some cloth, you know, somewhere in the room. Otherwise, you're going to have just horrible echo. You guys have ever been, you know, like in an empty house or an empty apartment, and you go into a big room and they haven't laid any carpet, or maybe it's all tile, and you speak and it's extremely loud and there's a lot of echo. You know, that's when you start hanging panels all over the wall to help with some of that. The room I'm in, though, I don't really have to worry about that because it's a small room and it's a lot of carpet. There's a couple of windows with some big heavy curtains on it, so I don't get any kind of echo here where I'm recording. Yeah, does the Sabayon operating system contain many bugs? I haven't noticed bugs as far as, you know, playing with it in the past. I've installed it on my physical machines. I mean, every Linux system, though, every Linux install, every operating system you've ever installed, things will break occasionally. But I haven't noticed Sabayon being worse than any others. It is a rolling release, though. I mean, we stated this at the beginning of the stream. You guys that want to check out Sabayon, absolutely. If you're okay with being on a rolling release, if you've been comfortable running things like Manjaro, Antergos, or Arco, Mainline Arch, you know, anything like that, Debian Sid, SUSE Tumbleweed, if you run any of that and you're okay with the problems you encountered running any of those distros, rolling release distros, yeah, check out Sabayon. If you've never lived on one of those real rolling release distros, maybe Sabayon might not be the first one I would suggest jumping into on main production machines anyway. You can always check it out in a VM. I mean, you can't hurt anything in a VM, so you can always check out any distro in a VM, and you can always check out any distro on a live USB stick because you can't really harm anything, right? It's just for funsies at that point. And why don't you try Gentoo for your main distro? Yeah, I mean, I would be fine on Gentoo because the Gentoo repos and, you know, everything that's in the overlays and everything, Gentoo would be okay for me. I'd have no problems living in Gentoo. Software availability and everything is about like it would be on Arch. Maybe a little less so than Arch because I might have a problem with anything that requires systemd. Flatpak and Snap packs used to have hard dependencies where they required systemd. I think Flatpak no longer requires systemd. I could be wrong about that. Snaps may or may not. I'm not 100% sure on that. But Gentoo, yeah, I'd be fine with Gentoo because everything I want's in the repos, pretty much. So the only problem with Gentoo would be you have to compile everything from source. So, like updates. You know, my Manjaro machine here, I had an update I had to take a couple of days ago. About 170 packages. You know, did it in the terminal. Sudo pacman SYU. 5 minutes. On a machine On my machine, my current machine, it's not a beefy machine. It's not a great CPU. Having to compile from source 170 packages, taking an update in Gentoo, might take an hour. You know, that's the trade-off. If I had a better machine, Gentoo starts making sense. Yeah, if I had a Threadripper, Gentoo makes sense. Because then those compile times don't take really any longer than, you know, those binary distros. You know. Yeah, DT, when you buy a Threadripper, you can start with Gentoo. Yeah, a Threadripper obviously changes things. With my current equipment, though, I would spend so much time compiling. Seriously. Like, so much time. Because I played with Gentoo on this machine. I played with Gentoo in VMs on this machine, which is even worse than on the physical machine. You know, in a VM, you're using less CPU. I mean, I've played with Gentoo many times over the years. The compile times just, it gets frustrating. It's slow. And for a binary distro, speaking of which, one of my biggest complaints with Sabayon over the years is that for a binary-based distribution, the package manager here in Sabayon, by the way, the menu has fixed itself. I don't know what was causing that problem earlier. But the utilities menu is still all jacked up. Anyway, let me open up the terminal. My biggest complaint has always been that the Equo package manager is slow. So if I'm going to take that update, or that upgrade rather. It was only 10 packages that needed to be upgraded, and nothing terribly big. Firefox was in there. Firefox is kind of big, so. But still, when you guys think of taking a 10 package update on a Debian-based distro or on an Arch-based distro, what are you thinking? 30 seconds? Let me accept the license here. Accept the license and don't ask me anymore. Let's see how long this takes. I'm going to drink a beer while we wait. Now maybe the repos are a little faster than they used to be. Maybe Equo, the package manager, is a little faster than it used to be. But I can tell you, about 6 years ago, you know, I've been trying Sabayon, you know, forever. Before I started this YouTube channel, you know, I've been playing around with Sabayon. And I could never use Sabayon as my daily driver a few years ago because the package manager was just so incredibly slow. You would get like a 200 package update because of a major, I don't know, KDE update, you know, if you were using Plasma. And that thing would take an hour and a half to update. That's just insane. That's unacceptable. And yeah, already in the chat, Ultima, wow, this is longer than I would have expected already. Yes. And this is a 10 package update. It's not, think about now, a 100 package update. That's not that unusual on a rolling release. That could happen tomorrow, 100 packages needing to be updated. If you're on a big desktop environment like GNOME or KDE, a 300 package update would not be that unusual occasionally. And it just takes too long. This is too long. So this has always been my criticism of Sabayon over the years. This is really the only complaint of mine. I would happily run Sabayon if the package manager was a little faster and if NVENC is supported out of the box. I've got to have NVENC as an NVIDIA user. If I wasn't an NVIDIA user, that problem's solved. If you don't use NVIDIA, don't even worry about that. But the package management, right? This is slow. I'm still waiting on those 10 packages to update. We're not done yet, are we? I might be done now. Am I back to a prompt? Let's see. No, we're still... It's cleaning the previously installed application data, even though I got a blinking cursor. It's not quite done, I don't think. Yeah, so it's not done. Oh. Wow, well, it's not even close to being done. That was package 2 of 10 that just completed. Now we're doing 3 of 10. And this is a binary distro. A binary distro. Now, you guys are wanting me to run GenTube, where it's building all of this from source, instead of just giving me a pre-built binary. Honestly, even on my crappy machine here, I probably could have built these from source faster than what it's taking to download and install the binary from Sabayon's repos. Yeah, Ultima. Yeah, I thought DNF was slow. Yeah, DNF is not bad. Apt and a Pac-Man, DNF, they're all good. No problems with those. Equo is just unusually slow. I don't know why. It always has been. The other thing about Equo, this is a minor gripe, but it has too much stuff going on in the terminal. I mean, I like terminals giving me information about what's going on, but this is a lot of useless information. I mean, this is too much stuff whenever it's installing these packages. Looks pretty, you know, oh wow, a lot of neat stuff flying by in the terminal, makes you look like a hacker. But this is just too much stuff going on. I'm gonna go back to the chat. We're on the 10th of 10 packages there, so probably in another 30 seconds or so that update will be completed. Yeah, is Equo written in Python? Is it? I don't know. But I mean, Python is not building these packages. I don't know why Python would have anything to do with that. Okay, it completed finally. Yeah. Yeah, so it's pure Python, is it? Equo written in Python? Yeah, DT, I agree. You would run out of paper if you would run update over the SSH on a VT100 terminal. Yeah. And Ultima, yeah, you didn't know that about, yeah, Equo being in Python? I didn't either. I might have. Maybe I just forgot. I have actually checked out their Sabayon's documentation with Equo many times. Every time I take a look at Sabayon, I always have to refresh myself with the commands with Equo. I had to switch it from Europe to CA. I'm assuming you're switching repos or mirrors for the distro. Which distro are you talking about? And St. Raphael is asking, DT, is Solus a rolling release? Yeah, they're a rolling release, but they're not bleeding edge. They're not a real rolling release like Gen 2 and Arch. They're not that kind of rolling release. More like a curated rolling release. So Solus tends to be kind of stable. You know, it's a quasi rolling release. But if you're actually wanting to be on a rolling release and have the latest and greatest, the freshest packages, you need an Arch-based distro, or you need a Gen 2-based distro, or you need Debian Unstable. Good luck with that. And OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. Pretty fresh packages on that too. Yeah. How is Linux from scratch? That seems like a hobby distro. Can you use it for everyday tasks? No, you can't. Linux from scratch is meant to be for educational purposes. It doesn't have a package manager of any kind, or no, it's not a real distribution. It's a manual. You go through it. You spend a couple of weeks in a VM going through the install, or on physical hardware. Physical hardware, it's a little harder because you have to read documentation, and it's easier in a VM because, if you did it on a physical hardware and didn't have an extra machine, then maybe you'd have to read the documentation on your phone or something. Yeah, DT, how's Xmonad coming along? Well, I am in Xmonad today, so good catch on that, but I left Xmonad about 2 weeks ago and moved to Herbsluft WM. I did not log into Herbsluft to do this video because I was about to do the video and I opened VirtualBox, and for some reason VirtualBox was not playing nice with Herbsluft. So I logged out of HerbsLift and logged into Xmonad to do this video. HerbsLift is pretty good. I haven't tweaked it much. To be honest, out of the box, HerbsLift is very usable. Couple of annoying things with it though. I'm not sure how I make something full screen, and I don't mean full screen as in full screen to the panel. I mean everything overlaps the panel. How do I make a video in Netflix or YouTube really full screen? I can't figure that out in HerbsLift. Maybe you guys that are HerbsLift masters can figure that one out for me. Because if I want something full screen in Xmonad here, I mean, it's just easy. I can't do it with this VM because the VM has focus here. But yeah, it's just easy to make something full screen in Xmonad. Qtile, I don't even think I really had to configure Qtile to do video full screen. Just anytime I hit the little full screen button in a YouTube video in Qtile, it just does it. You know, it covers the panel and everything. It's a true full screen. Yeah, Ben Fitzpatrick is in the chat. How you doing, Ben? Yeah, DT, why VirtualBox? Why not KVM and QEMU? I've used KVM and QEMU in the past. I just do everything in VirtualBox here on the channel. It's what I'm used to. It works. A lot of these devs, too, that build distros, a lot of these guys actually use VirtualBox. I mean, they check and make sure their stuff works in VirtualBox because it's so popular. Chances are it's going to work in VirtualBox if it's going to work in anything. Many of them actually develop the thing in VirtualBox. I mean, But VirtualBox is great. I mean, I don't have any complaints with VirtualBox as far as looking for an alternative. KVM, though, is not bad. I've played with it before. Yeah, HerbsLift is the best. German quality. It's that superior German engineering, right? Isn't that what they say about Mercedes-Benz? Or, you know. Yeah, DT, are you using the built-in panel or some other one? I'm using Polybar. But maybe I should try the built-in panel and see if it works with that. Are any of you guys on HerbsLift and able to get something full screen, a YouTube video or a Netflix video to be actually full screen, where it hides the panel and everything? And even just Googling it, I can't find any information about HerbsLift. Apparently not a lot of us use this thing, right? Like there's a million Xmonad users. I can find all the information I want to out there about Xmonad. Same thing with i3, the same thing with Awesome. Qtile, there's very few people actually run Qtile, but Qtile, the devs of Qtile have great documentation. There's no documentation really for HerbsLift. No good documentation. So, yeah, Windows enthusiast. Yeah, it works for me with the built-in panel. So I guess I just need to use the built-in panel. I didn't really want to use the built-in panel because I already had Polybar set up in HerbsLift. But I guess I should check it out. Alright guys, well that was all I was going to do with Sabayon. You know, that was just... We went through the install process even though it didn't install correctly. Not a problem with Sabayon. A problem with me, you know, in this VM. But you guys saw it's a dead simple install. Calamari's installer. You click OK 3 or 4 times and you're done in about 10 minutes. Sabayon, the GNOME desktop that they have is actually not a bad looking desktop. I don't hate it. The wallpaper, it's interesting. You know, and actually for an implementation of GNOME, this is not bad. I mean, I could use it. It's not horrible. Pretty cool stuff. I know a lot of you guys really love the GNOME desktop, but it's just one of those things. Different workflows for different people, different kind of paradigm. You know, if you're a mouse and click kind of person, yeah, maybe some of this would make sense. even keyboard driven though, it's not bad. I mean, I could super and then type, you know, like if I wanted to get to a terminal pretty quick, I can get to a terminal pretty quick. I mean, I could hack on it and make GNOME usable for somebody like me, but why would I need to when there's so many other better options for me out there? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to kill the VM here. So let me see if I can actually kill it with my Xmonad hotkeys. No, I can't, but I can X-kill it. All right. Took care of that problem there. And then I'll chat with you guys for a few minutes before I kill the stream here. I wasn't sure how long I'd be on tonight. Like I said, it's very impromptu live stream here. Mainly, for me, is I don't know. I hadn't done a live stream in about 2 weeks. I did that live stream, I think, a couple of Sundays ago, a solo live stream. And I like them. You guys tend to like them. And before I did that one about 2 weeks ago, I hadn't done one of those live streams in at least 3 or 4 months. A live stream like this where I interact with you guys in the YouTube chat or do something, you know, in a VM or, you know, some kind of tutorial of something. And let me see what I can find here on the internets. Yeah, LOL at that list of aborted VMs. That's at Present Arms. Was it that many aborted VMs? And that's usually how I end up killing them, is I just X-kill them. If I can get to a D menu or a Rofi menu, just type X-kill and be done with it. Trying to find how to exit it or shut it down in the menu. And then some of that stuff takes a while. Sometimes you'll go for the shutdown, and you know, like on these machines with systemd, even in a VM, you know, it might take 90 seconds to shut down. You get that countdown. Nah, X-kill. Yeah, ungoogled Chromium is supposed to be better than Brave browser. I've never tried Brave, and I've never tried ungoogled Chromium. I just stick to Firefox. Always have. Used Firefox since the first release. And Netscape before that. So basically stuck to the same browser since the beginning of time. I mean, I was on Netscape Navigator, you know, late 80s, early 90s, whenever. What was Netscape Navigator? I guess 1990, 1991. Remember using it on Windows 3.11. Windows for work groups. With the hot dog stand color scheme. That was a great color scheme. That color scheme made your eyes bleed. And what about Vivaldi? Their business model is not clear to me. Business model. Not sure what you're asking there. As far as how they plan on making money, I don't know. It's proprietary software, so I mean, I'm sure they're doing it for profit. As far as how they generate that profit, I don't know. I have Vivaldi installed on my machine, and I sometimes use it if I have to join a Google Hangouts. That's the only time I ever open it, though. Seems like a nice browser. Not open source, but as far as how they make money, if they make money, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, ungoogled Chromium and Brave are cool, but they eat all the RAM you throw at it. Yeah. Yeah, but that's any major browser. That's the modern web, right? If you're wanting a full-featured web browser that handles everything on the internet and does it well, Firefox, Chrome, and the hundreds of others that are based on them, yeah, it's going to consume a lot of RAM. You know, you open up Firefox and get a couple of tabs going, and all of a sudden you're using 4 gigs of RAM. That's normal. That's the web. That's the modern web. If you don't like that, there are really no other options other than don't view the web or don't view it in a graphical browser anymore. If all you want to do is read text anyway, if you're going to like a wiki or something, you don't really need Firefox or Chrome. They're too heavy for that task. Use a terminal-based browser at that point. Just because all you're doing is reading text anyway. Yeah, just load up the text in links. Let's see. Yeah. Undefined particle. DT, my computer freezes and starts filling the swap space. Meanwhile, Firefox doesn't do that. So Firefox doesn't do that, but the ungoogled Chromium, is that what you were saying was giving you some problems? Well, I mean, if you have a problem with a certain browser, obviously don't use that browser. There's plenty of options. Yeah, Vivaldi is made by people who used to work on Opera and split off. Yeah, that's correct. One of the original Opera guys started Vivaldi. So, yeah, any Chromium-based browser does that. Okay. Well, I mean, if Firefox works, I would suggest using that. I mean, yeah, not true. I can get it working with the Chromium VAAPI patch. Yeah. So that's interesting. So if you patch it, you can get it working. Yeah, I love Opera from back in the day. Same with Firefox. They were faster many years ago. Well, of course they were faster many years ago. The web pages you were loading weren't even 10% the size they are today. Again, it's just the web is bloated. You know, the web is bloated, so the browsers are bloated as well to properly view these pages. If those of you that aren't old enough to have been around on the web before, you had things like all this multimedia stuff on the pages and all these huge images everywhere, and the pages look really good. Even some of you remember the internet before we had JavaScript and CSS. I remember just plain HTML pages. Back when the internet speeds were so slow, typically you didn't even put images on the page. If you put images on the page, you made sure they were really small and as compressed as they could be, optimized as they could be, because it took forever for an image to load. Back in the day, you would have an image load, and it took so long for an image to load on the page, you would see it load like one line at a time, like one pixel line at a time, till it finally loaded, and it was so slow. So you tried not to put images on your web page, and now we have all these images and video, auto-playing videos, and all these ads that use all this JavaScript and everything on the page, and it's just so big and bloated because we have good internet now. We have high-speed internet, and we have ruined the internet. It was so much better when we really had to think, you know what, does that really belong on this web page? Do I really need to put this, this gigantic image, for a background on a web page? You know what? I could just pick a solid color and no image. That's the kind of decisions you had to make back then. Yeah, ads are like 50% of web pages. Yeah, and of course a lot of that is what is sucking up all the system resources. Yeah, your first modem was 2400K, yeah. The point is that too many developers are not good at coding, and given that computers have all that RAM, they're lazy with optimizing. The pictures are not the problem. Yeah, you make a point there. With modern internet, I would agree pictures aren't the problem anyway. It's hard to put an image on the internet that takes a long time to load. Then you actually have to sit there and watch load. Not these days. Not with our internet speeds. It's some of the other stuff going on. Yeah, it was easier to code web pages back then, but as time went on and browsers kept changing, you had to keep making modifications in the CSS rules for various browsers. Oh yeah, I remember some of that. I remember having to code web pages for Internet Explorer 6 and then for every other browser. Because Internet Explorer 6 it did not follow web standards. Nothing was right about that particular browser. So you would actually have to make 2 different versions of your website. Can you imagine that? Developing 2 different versions of a website just so it could run on Internet Explorer 6 because Internet Explorer is popular. It's on Windows, everybody uses it. And then for everybody that doesn't use Internet Explorer, you need to design a site for them. Luckily, we don't have anything quite as bad as that going on these days. But it was bad there for a period of time there in the 90s. Yeah, Big Pie, they write 3 versions of websites now. Well, I mean, now you've got more to deal with. Of course, now you got mobile to deal with. And technically, you do have to think about the folks running Safari on Macs as well. Yeah, are BBS systems still around? They are. Yu-Gi-Oh! There are BBS systems still out there. You can log into them and game on them. And I don't do much of that. I have occasionally. Of course, I don't game much. Even things as cool as BBS. But they're out there. Look around. If you want to log into a nice BBS, Brian Lunduke maintains one. He's got one. Or just do a Google search for BBS. You'll find plenty of them out there, though, still. Yeah, Ryan Wilson, I am getting certified for web development. Very cool. Alright, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kill the stream here. This was, again, just an impromptu live stream. I got home really right before I started streaming. I was at work all day. I realized I hadn't made a video in about 3-4 days. It's like, I should do something on the channel. And I really wanted to take a look at Sabayon anyway. I downloaded the ISO before getting home tonight. I already had the ISO sitting around. I just hadn't got around to doing anything. It's like, you know what? Let's do a live stream, In the words of the great Bill O'Reilly, F it. Let's do it live. Hope some of you caught that joke. If you guys remember Bill O'Reilly on that way before he was an anchor on Fox News. What was that show he did? Inside Edition. And it's like a little news show called Inside Edition. I forget what network that was on. Might have been ABC. Anyway, Bill O'Reilly famously blew up doing that show one time. You guys can check it out on YouTube. Where he got mad at a cameraman or something. He yelled at him, F it, we'll do it live. Alright, yes, St. Roth. Thanks, DT. Great show tonight. I appreciate that. Again, just hanging out, drinking a beer, checking out Sabayon. I might actually put Sabayon, by the way. I've already got Sabayon LXQT. It's been running on one of my extra drives here in my main machine forever. It just needs to be updated. But I thought about maybe putting Sabayon, the Fluxbox Minimal Edition, on one of my laptops. And then maybe putting some of these tiling window managers on top of that. Just so I still have this tiling window manager experience that I'm used to on one of my laptops, but with a Gen 2 base rather than an Arch base. Could be interesting. I'm not going to install the GNOME edition. I don't like GNOME. And I really don't like Plasma. And the only other options are XFCE and Mate. They're okay. Want something a little more minimal, though. Probably do the minimal version of Sabayon on one of my laptops and maybe throw I don't know. Maybe Herb's Luft, since I'm already on it anyway. Herb's Luft. And maybe one other window manager just in case I break Herb's Luft. It's always good to have 2 window managers on the system. Maybe have OpenBox on there as well as a backup. Present arms. System D is an infection. Yeah. It's a lot of colorful nicknames out there for System D too. Some I can't share here on camera for fear of getting demonetized. Yeah, hot chick with AIDS, HIV. Okay. Is System D really that bad? Yeah, I remember trying Sabayon in the past, years ago, and it was noticeably faster. I don't know why. Really? To me, it's always been kind of slow. If you're talking about the package management thing I showed you, that's always been a problem. If you're talking about just the desktop is slow. Obviously, desktops change over the years, like GNOME is completely different than it was years ago. GNOME 2 was very fast. The early versions of GNOME 3 were horrible. This last version of GNOME that I just saw in Sabayon looked like it was running pretty good, even in a VM. So I don't know. Of course, it'll vary depending on hardware. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to jump off. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. You still got a bunch of you guys still hanging out. So, yeah, I want to thank all of you guys. Of course, before I go, I do need to thank a few special people here. This show was made possible by Ansem, Carlos, Chris, Douglas, Dylan, Leor, Rob, Robert, and Tony. They are the producers of the show. Without them, we wouldn't have been doing this live stream showing you guys Sabayon 1903 GNOME tonight. It is because of those guys this show is possible. The show is also brought to you by all those fine ladies and gentlemen, that growing list of names you see on the screen that help support me over on Patreon. I want to thank each and every one of them as well. All right, guys. Peace.